Hello and welcome to Mr. Davis's classroom. This is Algebra 1 and today we're going to go over lesson 12.3, which is about the measures of central tendency and dispersion. Today's objective is to find mean, median, and mode, as well as range. So please get started on the warm-up, pause, and proceed once you're finished. Thank you. Problem 1 has bowling. And we want to know what are the mean, median, and mode of the bowling scores below, and then which one of those measures of central tendency best describes the scores. So the first thing I'm going to do is give myself a little bit of room, more room to write, and let's talk about what each one of those mean, median, and mode. First off is mean, which is the average, and this is in your book. So you should be able to get that. So we're going to add up all the scores and divide by how many there are. Median is the middle number, and that's what the middle number when we write it from smallest to largest. And the last one is mode, which is, not modes, mode, which is the most often. The one that shows up most often. To remember these, we have median, which kind of sounds like medium, or if you think about it as the median of a interstate, it's the middle. The other one is mode, which if you look, mode kind of looks like most, right? They both have that M-O part, so most. And the last one is mean. I don't have a special way to remember mean. You just have to kind of remember it's the one that's not the other two. So let's find those three. The first thing I think I'm going to do is I'm going to write these 8 bowling scores from lowest to highest. So I have a score of 104, and in fact I think we have 3 104s. That was a popular score, so that gets rid of 104, 104, 104. The next one looks like 109, then 113, 117, 136, and 189. So now that they're all written out, it will help us find some of those measures of central tendency, or the mean, median, and mode. Let's start off with mean. All right, so that's the first one. Mean is where we find the average, or I'm going to add all of these numbers together and then divide by the total amount, or 8, because there was 8 bowlers. So I'm going to add all the scores together, divide by 8, because there's 8 scores to be added together. So as we plug these into our calculator, we get 104 plus 104 plus 104 plus 109 plus 113 plus 117 plus 136 plus 189, all over 8. And this will give us 122. 122 is my mean score for these bowling. So I'm going to write that up here. See, mean is 122. All right. Now if I look, all right, so that's mean. I'm going to erase mean to give myself some space. Next one we'll talk about is median. Well, median is when we go to the very middle number. So if I start on my outsides and work my way in, my middle is right here. Now my middle should be between those. So we kind of have 2 middle numbers, right? When we have 2 middle numbers, we split the difference. We find the average between those two. And the average between 109 and 113 is 111. This will always happen when we have an even number of scores or numbers to find the median with. If we had an odd amount, it would only be 1 number. Since we have an even amount, it's going to be in between 2 numbers. So that is my median. Median is 111. All right. So let me clean up a little bit. There we go. There we go, all clear. The last one we need to talk about is the mode, which is the most often occurring one, which we have 3 104s, only one of everything else. So my mode is 104. So let's plug those in, right? So I have mode here. I have my median is here, and my mean is here. My mean was 122, and my median was 111. Now the last part is they say, which measure of central tendency best describes those scores? Well, I don't think mode describes these scores very well. It's the 3 lowest scores, and if we present that as our central tendency, it presents these numbers as pretty low. And in the same sense, mean doesn't represent these numbers too well either, because of it's 122, which is a little too high. Looks like median best represents these numbers, because I think 111 is about where these numbers come through. One of the reasons why mean is so high, well, look how big. We have one person who's bowling pretty well, one person. And because that one person's bowling pretty well, they raise the mean score up from there. All right, so that's mean, median, mode with that measures the central tendency. Here's one for you to try. Same scores from problem 1, but we're not going to include the outlier of 189. We're not going to include the really good bowler. So here we have grades on 3 of our exams, which are an 80, a 93, and a 91. We want to know what grade do we need to score on the next exam to have an average of 90 on the 4 exams. Well, again, average, right, is the same thing as mean, which is when I add together all of my scores. Ooh, I know I've got those 3 scores. What's my last exam score, right? I know I have 4 exams. We're going to have to leave that as a variable because we don't know what it is yet. And divide it by the total number. And the total number is 4 because I have 4 exams. Okay. Well, to solve this, let's first off add those 3 numbers together. So I get 80 plus 93 plus 91, which I think is 264. Oh, and the last thing I forgot, we want a 90, don't we? We want our mean to be 90. There we go. I almost forgot that. Crucial part. Now it's time to get x by itself. Right? So I have a 4, I can multiply by 4, those cross off, leaving me with 360 is equal to 264 plus x minus 264 minus 264. I get 96 is equal to x. So the score we have to get on the last exam to average a 90 is a 96. Here's a similar problem, but instead of averaging a 90, we're going to average an 88. All right, please pause and then proceed once you're done. Here we have some stock markets for first 5 days in February. We want to know what are the range and mean of each one, and then use the results to compare the data sets. So mean, we've dealt with a few times, that's the average. Range is the difference between the lowest and the highest score. So let's do both of those. So here I have range and then mean. Range is the difference between the highest and lowest score. So it's 47 minus 25, which is 22. This first one, the stock A, has a range of 22. The median, again, is the sum divided by the total number of days. Let's see, did I write this down right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. Okay. When I find the mean, I need to add those all up and divide by 5. So let's do that real quick, and we get 32 for my mean. Let's try that. Same thing with range and median here. Range again is the largest minus the smallest, which my largest looks like 36. My smallest is 28, which gives me a range of only 8. My mean, again, is the sum all over the total number of objects. We have 5 days. And when we add these together, so you punch these into my calculator, we get 32. Now, we want to compare the data sets. Well, the first thing I notice is the mean's the same. The average is the same. However, when we think about the average being the same, it doesn't mean that these numbers are the same at all. These numbers can be very different. So when we look at what's different, we have the range, 22 and 8. It tells me stock A had a lot larger range than stock B. Or stock B was closer to the average on any given day, while A varied a lot. So you might believe that this is a better stock because of it's always about the same. Or maybe you think this one's a better stock because of it can gain you a lot more in one day. But those are how these two stocks compare. All right, here's stock C and stock Z, or stock C and stock D for you to try on your own. Here's some athletes and a time on the treadmill. Now this is the first week of training for these athletes. In the second week, they're going to add 5 minutes to their training time, and we want to know what's the mean, median, and mode, as well as the range for the times of the second week. Well, first off, let's recalculate. So this is week 1. Week 2, we're adding 5 minutes to it. Okay, so that's week 2 right there. Well, let's start off with the mean. Right. Mean, which is when we add all those together, and I think that we've done enough means now that I don't need to write it all the way out, but we know it's going to be the sum divided by how many there are. So first off, we're going to add 55, 25, 46, 25, 35, 25, 55. Then we're going to divide by, let's see, how many athletes do we have? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 athletes. I'm going to divide by 7, I get 38. 38 is the mean, or the average time spent on the treadmill for the second week. Median. Oh, remember, median is the middle number, so we need to count down from the top and up from the bottom until we get to the median. This list right here is not currently in order of smallest to largest numbers, but we can still count down. So let's start off. The smallest number looks like it's 25. Right, so here's a 25 right here for Carlota. And the largest is 55 for Xavier. All right, so then the next smallest is still 25. The next largest is still 55. The next smallest is still 25. The next largest is 46, which tells me that 35 is my middle number. And I didn't even need to write it in order. If that was confusing for you, you need to pause right now, order those in smallest to highest, and then count down the way we did in example 1. The mode, most often occurring. Well, just talking just now, I think that we saw that there was 3 25s that showed up. So mode is 25. That's most often occurring. Last one, which is range, remember, is the largest number, which we saw was 55, minus the smallest, which is 25, which gives me a range of 30. Those are the measures of central tendency for time on treadmill, week 2 of those 7 athletes. This one, we're adding 10 more minutes to that. Find those measures of essential tendency. Problem 5. We have regular prices on televisions for $144, $479, $379, $12.99, $171, $479, and $269. We are offering a 30% discount on all televisions. What's the mean, median, mode, and range of the discounted prices? Okay, so for the discounted prices, it's 70% off. Well, if it's, or I mean 30% off. Well, if it's 30% off, how much am I going to pay for, right? Well, if it's 30% off, I'm paying for 70%. So right now, I'm going to take 70%, which is 0.7, and multiply it by each one of my models. So 144 times 0.7 is $100.80. 479 times 0.7 is 479 is 335.30. And the rest of them, I'm not going to write out, but we'll write down the answers for each one. So the next one was 379. The new price is 265. The $12.99 one is going to be $9.09, 30 cents. And 171 is going to be $119, 70 cents. The last two is 479 and 269, which gives me 335 and 188. Now that's done, we can find the mean, median, mode, and range. So let's start off with mean. So mean is when I'm going to add all these together. So we have 188 plus 30 plus 335, 30 plus 119, 70 plus 909, 30 plus 265, 30 plus 335, 30 plus 100, 80. All of that divided by was 7 models gives me 322. That's the mean, or the average price of the discounted models. The next one is the median. And again, on the median, they're not listed in highest to lowest order. So what we're going to do is we're going to do this the longer way. So let's mark off and see that's the lowest model, highest model. All right, next lowest is 119. Next highest is 335. Next lowest is 188. Next highest is 335. Which leaves me with 265 as being my mean. 265, 30. My mode, which again is most often occurring, is going to be this 335, 30. And the last one, which is range, which is highest minus lowest, which is $100.80, which is going to give me a 108.50. And I said 108, but I meant 808. 808.50. That's the mean, median, mode, and range of these discounted prices. All right. Try this one. It's 25% off, and then move forward. Here's our homework on page 730. I'd like to thank you for stopping by Mr. Davis's classroom. I hope you enjoyed.